Roe approved our pictures? Well, we're about to put them on TV, so...
Down in front. They're coming.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. First off, I'd like to apologize for the time change. There's a vigil tonight at 7 o'clock, and out of respect for the victims and the families in the community, we wanted to bump this press conference up an hour. First and foremost, I'm sorry? Hey, first and foremost, we'd like to ask you to please keep these victims and their families in this community in your thoughts and prayers. They're very much welcome and very much needed during these troubling times. The Texas Rangers, DPS personnel, the FBI, ATF, and Wilson County Sheriff's Office, and several other agencies continue to work continuously over the past 2 days. Yeah, I'd like to mention something about the Unified Command. There are many, many agencies involved in this investigation, and that we are unified into one team with one mission. And in my opinion, this investigation right here is what right looks like. Every agency has their own expertise, and we're using that expertise to do a very, very thorough investigation. As far as the investigation, we've collected a substantial amount of evidence to piece together what happened here. Bodies have been removed and transported to the medical examiner's office for autopsy. A substantial amount of evidence, physical evidence, has been collected, including hundreds of shell casings, more than 15 magazines, 30-round capacity magazines have been recovered. The suspect vehicle has been processed with the suspect's body inside. Multiple interviews have been conducted in numerous cities and other states. Victims have been identified and next of kin have been notified. What needs to be done from this point? We need to finalize the list identifying the deceased victims and complete the notifications of next of kin. We plan to have that done and release the victims' names as soon as possible. Tonight, we hope to finish the evidence collection process, and we'll begin forensic mapping and trajectory analysis tomorrow. What I can tell you is today, the autopsy was performed on the shooter, and if you notice, I used shooter instead of the suspect's name. We do not want to glorify him and what he's done. But the autopsy was conducted this morning, and what I can tell you is he sustained 3 gunshot wounds. 2 gunshot wounds were from the armed citizen. One of those was in the leg, and the other one was in the torso. And he had a third gunshot wound, which the medical examiner described as being consistent with being self-inflicted. There's no change regarding the victims. We still have 4 in serious condition, 10 in critical condition, and the number of deceased has not changed. Texas DPS Victim Services continue working with the victims and their families through this horrible tragedy. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for coming. We'll entertain any questions. I believe the FBI Special Agent in charge has some brief comments. Chris Combs.
Thanks, sir. Good afternoon. So I just want to commend the commander from DPS for not mentioning the shooter's name. We certainly don't want to glorify what has happened there. There's a couple of campaigns out there. One is called Don't Name Them, where we don't talk about the shooter. We don't see his name out there in the press. So it doesn't encourage other people to do horrific acts like this. I can tell you that the scene in there is horrific, is not even a word to describe it. I certainly want to commend the first responders who went in there from fire, EMS, and the police department, and the FBI and the DPS Ranger evidence teams that are in there now taking care of this. I think that's an important part we should all always remember. I know there's a lot of questions about the FBI NICS system and how did the person get the weapons. I can tell you that for the 4 purchases that he made, the NICS system did their required checks, and there was no prohibitive information in the systems that we checked that say that he could not have purchased that firearm. There are 3 checks that are conducted. One is of NCIC, one is a criminal history check, and another one is an indices on the NICS system itself. So in all three of those databases, there was not information that we would have said was prohibitive for that man to get the firearm. Thank you very much.
The question was, the third gunshot wound was to the head, the one that was self-inflicted.
Is that a failure of the U.S. military to not inform you guys that you should have been in?
So obviously, everybody's taking a look at what happened there. I believe the Air Force released a statement about 30 minutes ago. So we're working with them to try to figure out what happened there.
Sir, was the shooter's grandmother-in-law among the victims?
I'm sorry?
Sir, was the shooter's grandmother-in-law among the victims?
She was not.
Was he fired from the Army?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Was he fired from the Army?
Can you answer that? We know he was released from the Army, and we'd have to refer to the Air Force on that. It was the Air Force.
Sir,
Where was the self-inflicted gunshot inflicted?
To the head.
There have been unconfirmed reports that the suspect may have taken a hostage in the car. It's been floating around on CNN and other outlets. Can you lend any truth to that?
That is not confirmed. That's not true.
Not true.
Ted Cruz today mentioned apparently he thought that the shooter might have attended the same church. Not true?
I'm not aware of the shooter attending this church. He had family members that attended. His spouse attended this church.
Sir, did you say that the grandmother-in-law was not?
Oh, the grandmother-in-law? We're not aware of that at this time.
sir, earlier you told us that the suspect had called his father. Can you expand on that conversation a little bit? Tell us if the family's been cooperative.
They have been cooperative, and I really can't expand on that because of that cooperation and communications, and out of respect for them.
Sir, one of the victims was reported to be pregnant. Will that be number charge?
That number was included.
Was this intended
One of the
to be a
victims was
revenge
pregnant.
shooting?
I'm sorry?
Was this intended to be a revenge shooting? His in-laws that came to the church regularly?
I can't comment further on that.
Can you go more?
We know there was conflict between the families, and whether that was revenge or not, it would be speculation on my part.
Can you speak to the
Did you just say that the grandmother-in-law
We're not aware if we're unaware if she's one of the victims or not.
You can't say no for sure.
I can't.
Sir, can you speak to the messages that the shooter sent to his mother-in-law?
I can't. The phones are being explored at this time, and I don't have that information.
Can you clarify the
Officer, that if the crime was not racial, not religious.
I can't. The phones are being explored at this time, and I don't have that information.
Can you clarify the
Officer, that if the crime was not racial, not religious motivated, can we say right now that he came to kill the mother-in-law?
There are many ways that he could have taken care of the mother-in-law without coming with 15 loaded magazines and an assault rifle to a church. I think he came here with a purpose and a mission, and I have, that's my.
How many magazines? Can you clarify the weaponry?
I'm sorry?
How many magazines? You said 15 earlier. You said more.
There were 15 magazines collected here at the crime scene.
And 4 weapons.
How many of those magazines were empty?
All of them.
Thank you for coming out, ladies and gentlemen. That'll be the last question. We will have a briefing for you tomorrow. Continue to follow us on Twitter, and we will also through email as well. Thank you.
What time tomorrow?
We will announce that through email and Twitter as well.